Good morning. We're back for another episode of Gelli Plate Techniques. Today we're going to use alcohol markers on our Gelli Plate. I'm just going to create some backgrounds with these. I happen to have a stash of Sharpie alcohol markers, but any alcohol marker, such as Copic markers or other brands you can use. These are Pen Plus Gear markers. That just happens to be the brand of black ones I have. If you noticed, those were fairly heavy points. We're also going to use our basic Gelli Plate supplies, a brayer, and paint. And I'm using craft paint today simply because it dries quickly. I happen to like it on the Gelli Plate. I will tell you, however, that white paint was pretty messed up. I'm also using just plain copy paper. You could use deli paper. You could use um, tissue paper. You could use just watercolor, whatever paper or cardstock you wanted to use. I am just coloring on the Gelli Plate. If you notice, my marker is kind of sideways to the Gelli Plate, not point down. I did speed this up because, it takes a little while to color your Gelli Plate with a marker. So I'm just scribbling all over this Gelli Plate making marks. Now, if you noticed, I started with the colors, the lighter colors first. Alcohol markers have the one factor on your Gelli Plate where if you draw on over top of another color, you might pick that color up on your marker. So if you want to keep your markers clean and the color that they are to start with, you want to try to avoid coloring over top of a darker marker. Now then, I started to draw with the black marker over top of the lighter colors. If that marker gets color on it, the black, there again, I'm showing you just don't draw on it with your, don't point first down. And the black, it might pick up some of the other color, but at the same time, it won't ruin the marker. And I am just drawing. You could do anything you want with this technique. I'm letting it dry a little bit. I don't want it to be real wet. Doesn't take long for an alcohol marker to dry. And now I'm putting on paint. And this is what I'm talking about. The white paint, I don't know, it looks like it's separated. But it was on the plate, so I went ahead and used it to pull. But if you noticed, it's not brayering down good. It is the paint. It is not the technique. You don't want a ton of paint. You want a reasonably small amount of paint. And I'm just using that big piece of paper so I don't get my hands terribly dirty this morning. And there we have it. Just a simple background, but with markers. As I said, you can see that paint left some residue. Now, that doesn't bother me. If it did, you could clean your plate. I personally just keep going. I happen to like the grunge that layers on top of layers makes. So I usually just keep going. And the alcohol markers are not going to be bothered by that white paint. However, the white paint is going to show up on the next print. I know a lot of people that clean their plates in between pulls, but it's just been one of those things that I happen to like the grunge, so I don't. Um, but we'll stay away from that bottle of white paint. Apparently, it was just not mixed up very well. Now you do want to stick to colors of paint that are a little bit lighter, just simply so your marker shows up on them. Now you can sort of see the marks through the paint, and that's what you want. You don't want a really thick layer of paint. You want it to sort of be able to see your drawing. And as I've said before, this series of videos, I'm just trying to give you techniques. Please be aware that I rarely use just one technique when I'm uh, jelly plating. I tend to use multiple techniques. And by showing you just one at a time, I'm not showing you the layers and depth that you could put on your plate. Okay, there's enough stuff on my plate. I want you to be able to see the next pull, so I am just going to clean up the plate by pulling whatever's left off with the deli paper. And honestly, that may have been a little bit too much paint there to get it as clean as I wanted it, but deli paper tends to pull the paint off the plate very, very well. And you see how I keep going in sideways with my marker? I am not putting the tip point down. I just don't want to run the risk of damaging my jelly plate by poking into it. Even though those markers are not that hard, it's still. And the alcohol marker will leave some stain on your jelly plate. Alcohol and the jelly plate are compatible, but the jelly plate's stain. They do. Mine is not as clear as it was. It still functions just fine. And with the alcohol markers and this technique, you have all the time you want to take. If you wanted to draw something much more involved, you could. You could do a big old Zentangle on your plate with the alcohol marker because you want it dry before you do your pull. So it really is something that you could just take your time with. It's not something that you would have to have um, gone fast like I did. These are technique videos, not really major projects. I hope I'm making sense today. I really did. I think these will be fun backgrounds, fun collage papers. Now, there's a lot of ink left on there, so I decided to just pull a second print. And you notice how the darker colors show up better on the pink. If I had pulled that print with a lighter color paint, I probably would have had more design. I'm perfectly content with the layers that end up on it. As I said, these are not spectacular designs, but I wanted you to see the technique. I really thought this is a fun technique. It's simple. Alcohol markers are something we probably all have in our stash, and it's one more way to use your Gelli Plate. I truly hope you've enjoying this series. These are supposed to be short little videos showing you techniques, and I'm hoping to keep this up all year and do 52 different ones. But for now, go have fun. Make some art. Bye-bye.